Today is my last day at work and I wanted to film this just so I can document this milestone for myself. The truth is, I'm feeling really scared and insecure. For a while, I had been planning and visualizing this day, but now that the day is here, I'm really questioning if I'm actually ready for this. This time last year, I posted a video about going on a break from my professional day job. It was a huge milestone and I was really excited but also a bit nervous. For years, my husband and I worked really hard to build a financial cushion. Both our jobs are quite demanding in nature, so it's really important for us to have some kind of leverage for even when we need a break. However, in the last 2 months, I've been thinking about going back part-time. This is something a lot of you suggested for me to do after I posted that video. So I thought I should talk about why I quit altogether instead of doing part-time work. Now, apart from my maternity break, I had always worked full-time. And every time I went into work, I would give it my everything. With me, it's always been really hard to find the middle ground. With a lot of things I do, it's either all or nothing. So it's no surprise why there were so many times during my career that I was severely burnt out. I remember there was a time when I came back from work, I just completely broke down in tears because I was so exhausted. Throughout the day, I tried my best to keep my composure and to act professional, but when I got home, I had nothing left and I was just a mess. My husband and a very close friend suggested for me to go part-time, but for some reason, I just didn't think that would solve my problems. My thinking was, if I'm going to do this job, I might as well go all in. In fact, I sometimes had a bit of anxiety from not being there all the time and feeling like I wasn't in control. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to work as hard as I can to achieve a certain financial milestone. And when I get there, that will be the end of the chapter for me. Now, in the first 4 months or so, it was refreshing to not have to follow a work schedule and I can pretty much do whatever I want. I can do my grocery shopping on a Wednesday morning and not have to deal with queues and traffic. I can have a haircut on a Thursday morning instead of waiting for weeks for a Saturday appointment. I don't have to speak to anyone if I'm not in the mood to do so. I can spend hours at a time doing digital illustrations, and I've even started an illustration project. Last year has also been my biggest reading year. I've gone through so many books that I've lost count. We also went on some lovely trips as a family, and most importantly, I've been able to spend a lot more time with my little boy. We've spent every half term and the entire summer holiday together. So I have no regret about going on a break at the prime time of my career. It was a healing period that I really needed. I think if I did stay on part-time, knowing I was already burnt out, a lot of the low-level stress might still linger around. Over the last 12 months, I've been doing a lot of thinking and reflections about burnout and how I want to move forward with my life. One of the biggest realizations is how little I need to be happy. Now, in the past, my coping mechanism was to go shopping and buy myself nice things. Looking back, it was a vicious cycle where I overworked, I got stressed, I went shopping, I was happy momentarily, but then I got even more stressed when the credit card bills arrived. And then I had to go back to work even harder to pay for the shopping. Time and again, the cycle kept repeating itself, but when you're in the thick of it, it can be tricky to notice that you're in this unhealthy cycle. Being on this break really opened up my eyes about how I don't need to overwork to sustain a lifestyle that I don't necessarily enjoy. To a certain extent, it wasn't entirely the job itself that stressed me out. A lot of it had to do with the way I treated work as well. I mean, before learning about minimalism, my job was a way to pay for my expensive shopping. But later, it became a means for me to achieve early retirement. I was so focused on the end goal that I forgot to enjoy the journey. Don't get me wrong, the job is demanding, but the way I handled the situation didn't help either. So part of me is curious about if I go back with a different mindset this time, perhaps I might enjoy it a lot more. For years, I really thought this would be the perfect life, not having any work commitment and having the freedom to do the things I enjoy doing. And to be fair, it felt amazing at first to have this kind of flexibility. For example, we got a message the other day in the early morning saying school was cancelled because they were having some problem with the water. Now, if my husband and I were both working, I would have to cancel my whole work schedule because we have no childcare. But because I didn't have to rush to the office, I could keep my little boy with me until school reopened 2 hours later. So I really value the flexibility, but at the same time, I also occasionally feel a lack of purpose. As much as I want to deny it, I still feel like to a certain extent, my identity is defined by what I do. After all, I spent years training to do the job, and then I spent another 13 years working in the profession. In the first 4 months or so, it was refreshing to have a break from everything, but in the last 2 months, I started to feel a bit directionless. Now, I never sit around all day doing nothing. I always try to keep myself busy, but I just don't feel as validated in a way. The thing is, when I was working as a dentist, I have very visual proofs that I've produced something, whether it is in the form of removing a tooth that's been keeping a patient up in the night, reconstructing a tooth, or improving a smile. Whereas now, I don't feel like I'm making a difference, and if I'm honest with myself, I also feel guilty for not making use of my qualifications. As an introvert, I find solitude to be very nourishing for my well-being. I enjoy having some space and time for myself and to be creative. So at first, it was a blessing to not have any work commitment outside home. However, after a while, it started to feel a bit isolating. To be honest, I never thought this would be a problem, but I guess too much of anything is never a good idea. For example, in the daytime, most of the people I know are at work. We keep in touch by messaging, but if I'm not careful, I can quite possibly go days without physically speaking to anyone, apart from my husband and my little boy. So I've been thinking to go back and maybe do 1 to 2 days a week, just to maintain a healthy level of social contact and a sense of normalcy. This way, I can also retain plenty of time to work on myself and my projects. I want to talk about the aspect of money because even though I have planned for an income drop after quitting, emotionally, it took me months to get used to the change. My main issue is I feel a bit insecure about investing less than I used to, which I know is not rational because we have been doing the heavy loading to get to this point. However, part of me feels like I should keep contributing to the future like I used to, seeing I'm only in my 30s. In the early retirement community, I believe they call it the 1 more year syndrome, where people feel like they should work another year and then 1 more year after that to keep contributing to the future. So this is something I need to work on if I go back to work, because while investing is good, being overly obsessed with the future is probably not healthy. Anyway, the current update is I'm working on my CV and I'm also looking for a place where I can work 1 to 2 days a week. I've promised myself not to compromise. I'll only accept a position in a place where I can get all the support I need to do the work I want to do, and a place where I can really get on with the team. Sometimes I do feel like maybe I'm constantly chasing something. For example, when I had a full-time job, I really desired flexibility. But now that I have flexibility, I started to desire structure. Either way, I'm really thankful for this break, and I'm so glad to be able to share this journey with you. My hope is to give you a realistic view on quitting a somewhat secure 9 to 5. What this journey has taught me is that life is constantly evolving, and it's not like when you get to a certain checkpoint, you live happily ever after. On that note, I would love to know what you guys do for a living and if you enjoy what you do. So please take a moment to share it down below. That's it from me today. Take care, and I will see you soon.
There's literally a whole pigeon show though. You see all along here, Beth.